Today, we are going to be talking about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Let's take a look at their Synastry chart to get an idea of the real dynamic between this couple. See, what's going on. Are they really as perfect as they seem? Are they really the it couple that they project themselves to be? I'm Luna, an astrologer and tarot reader of over 8 years. I've had the joy of guiding over 1,000 clients on their own personal astrological journeys. And if you would like your own personalized astrology reading, you can head on over to my Etsy shop. I have it linked in the description below. I'm currently running a 20% off New Year's sale, so be sure to check that out. It is a limited time sale. Inner circle, we have Blake, and then in the outer circle in orange, we have Ryan. So I just did Blake and Justin's chart, so you guys can check that out. It should already be posted by now. But this is gnarly. This Mars-Pluto conjunction, this is crazy to me because it's exactly what she has with Justin. They both have this moon Mars in Scorpio. Ryan and Blake, what am I saying? Ryan and Justin both have a moon and Mars in Scorpio right on top of her Pluto. So she tends to gravitate towards kind of dominant men who kind of take care of everything, men who kind of have a little bit of a dominant manager, like I run things kind of energy. This is going to create a lot of sexual passion between them, a lot of attraction between them, a lot of desire between them, but it also is the grounds for really gnarly fights. I think that Ryan is a very like unpredictable person. He's got this moon Mars Uranus conjunction. This means that literally like this, his entire like demeanor can shift. He can go from nice guy to your worst nightmare at the drop of a hat. And I think that she knows this about him. And I do think that with all of her Virgo, she tends to appease him, try not to get on his nerves, try not to upset him. And personally, even with this Saturn on his Neptune, she might even find herself being like, oh, it's my fault that he's mad at me. Like if he's upset, if he like lashes out, she might internalize it as like, I've done something wrong, right? Because she might put him on a pedestal with Neptune. She doesn't see him clearly. She puts him on a pedestal. Even Saturn being here, it's almost like she feels chosen by him, like choose me, pick me. But also at the same time, it means that she really values his authority. And so if he's upset at her, she's very likely to back off. Now, what's interesting here too is her entire Virgo stellium sextiles his Scorpio stellium. So temperament wise, they actually click really well. I think that he is a very intense, obsessive, and driven person on a positive note. On a negative note, the North Node with the Sun and the Moon and Mars is an incredibly egotistical person. This is someone who has a really strong, inflated sense of self. People with the Sun with their North Node tend to be a little bit vain or like incredibly self-focused to a degree that's like kind of weird. And with his Mars there too, it's like his drive, especially in the sign of Scorpio, he has an intense drive to control and dominate and to acquire power. And so on a negative note, that can make him someone like a megalomaniac vibe, right? Like someone who, just like wants things their way or the highway kind of vibe. Now, Uranus here makes him really impulsive and very like drastic. He takes very drastic measures. And he's a little cuckoo. He's a little cuckoo, but I think it's exciting for her. Pluto Mars Uranus conjunction is very sexy. His moon on her Pluto. One thing you need to know about Scorpio people is that they don't trust easily. And the reason that Scorpios are so ride or die is because once they let you in, you cannot go back. It's like, how do I explain this? It's like you've signed a contract. Like you don't come in, but if you're allowed in, you're not allowed out. And so his moon on her Pluto is like, I've chosen you. I've built a family with you. You've become the cornerstone of my emotional stability. Therefore, I need you at my disposal at all times. So he can be a little controlling. So this can manifest as like love through control, where he manifests his love for her in ways that can be possessive, or even like from the outside in could feel like, what, you can't text men? You can't have male friends? What do you mean you can't go out on Saturday night? Right? Like it kind of starts like that, a little bit like just weird rules where other people might just be like, what do you mean? Like you're a grown woman. That could be coming through. Now with Sun Pluto conjunction, he was transformed by her. When he met her, his life was turned upside down. When he met her, he wanted her. He wanted to acquire her because of his ego. And this comes back to his Saturn on the ascendant in Leo. So his Saturn is on her ascendant. He carefully curates the way that she presents herself, but also, most importantly, he saw Blake as the perfect addition to the kind of person and image he wanted to cultivate. Saturn in Leo is someone who is, again, incredibly image and ego focused. In the highest, most positive manifestation, this is someone who loves to be the center of attention, someone who's really charismatic, someone who really can captivate others with their energy. In its most negative manifestation, this is someone who, Saturn in the 11th house, they desire status and they desire social power and social currency, right? And Blake, with the ascendant is like the way she looks. It's like her image. She's the Barbie to his Ken, right? Like she perfectly fit into the kind of person and image he wanted to solidify himself in the collective mind, which is like, you ask yourself, why do we know so much about Blake and Ryan? Why are they so solidified in like America's conscious or collective mind? It's because, first off, a celebrity couple being this well known is often purposeful. Like, you don't just get paparazzi, you don't just get media outlets posting about you willy-nilly. Like, this is purposeful. They're purposefully showing on red carpets together. They purposefully speak of each other consistently. They do shoots and interviews and et cetera, together because they are trying to brand themselves. Saturn on the ascendant is literally curating an image. And I think that he has decided that she is a part of his image, and therefore he has to control her because now she affects him, which is really interesting because he's getting dragged into this whole thing with the It Ends With Us situation with Justin Baldoni. Now, another thing that I'm noticing is that he has a lot of placements on her angles. He's got this Saturn on her ascendant. He's got his Scorpio stellium on her IC, and he's got this Jupiter here in her 10th house. This means he grounds her. The angles of the chart are the structure of the chart, right? And so he provides her with guidance. He provides her with structure. He tells her what to do and how to move forward. She honestly, Saturn on the ascendant, she sees him as an elder. She sees him as like a teacher to her, someone she can learn from, someone she admires. But Saturn, his Saturn on her ascendant and her Saturn on his Neptune, even her Pluto on his Mars, she feels at his mercy. But I think she likes that. She's like a Virgo stellium. Like, she kind of likes to be dominated and she likes to be a little submissive. Like, she's very into that. And with all of her Virgo stellium in his 12th house, this means that he feels like she sees into his soul. She sees him bare. And, you know, Virgo itself is like such a little fixer energy. Like, it's a little bit like she wants him to choose her, right? Like Saturn, Neptune, like, pick me. I will do whatever you need me to be. I will be whoever you need me to be. And even the Saturn on her ascendant, like if Ryan ever made a comment like, oh, I love you in that pink dress, she will always wear that pink dress from now on. Or if she notices like he's not as enthusiastic about her wearing something, or maybe makes a little funny comment about it, she won't wear it ever again. Saturn on the ascendant means that in some ways she feels a little bit inferior to him, like a little bit like he kind of, like her self-esteem is tied to him. And that's not always great, right? It can make her feel like she internalizes his opinions and his authority into her identity, right? Her moon is on his part of fortune, so he sees her as his trophy, right? Part of fortune is like, it's fortune, it's prize energy. And the moon is like, you know, her nurturing her feminine energy. He sees her as like the ultimate prize. As a couple, they're both quite materialistic. I mean, both of them have very second house heavy charts. So that means that they care a lot about the way things look. They care a lot about value. They care a lot about money. They care a lot about things. They care a lot about like beauty and prestige, right? Like, they like that stuff. And his second house stellium being in her 4th house, they're building generational wealth together. They're building like their grandchildren's money type of vibe. He's a very business savvy person with all this Scorpio in his 2nd house. He's someone who's playing chess in his brain about money. And it benefits her. It grounds her. It makes her feel like she doesn't have to worry about things. I even wonder with like all of his 2nd house stuff here, like he might be the one to handle most of the like practical real life stuff. You know, one of the things that has come out about Blake that's like been getting, like she's been getting this kind of like out of touch, out of reality, out of touch, like celebrity energy. And I do think that part of it is because he kind of shelters her a lot. I feel like with Saturn on the ascendant, he is kind of like a parent to her in some ways. Like he kind of handles everything for her, and she just kind of lives in her own little like bubble. So it's not entirely her fault. Like she doesn't really have a lot of problems or like connection with people who aren't literally mega rich, and like part of that is just she's very sheltered. She truly is. His Venus is in her fourth house. I think that she loves the beauty of them being together. She loves the idea of Blake and Ryan and their house and their perfect little family and their children. She loves that. I do think something that's coming through, which is kind of interesting, is that he has a tendency with Venus Neptune. First off, he's a good liar. Versus Mercury. Oh, it's in Libra. Yeah. And with Pluto. Wow. He's very persuasive. Mercury Pluto people, they can convince you of anything, and they're incredible liars. They're also really secretive. They're really good at keeping secrets, getting dirt on people, and they're really good at manipulation. In Libra, on a positive note, I know I said that like it's terrible. Mercury Pluto conjunctions are incredibly powerful. That means that when you speak, people listen. He's an incredible comedian. He's an incredible actor. If you want to be an actor, a Mercury Pluto conjunction is really good. When you speak, when you deliver lines, you're magnetizing. You have a magnetic energy. And in Libra, it means that you will never even know that he is kind of manipulating you when he speaks. And I think she loves that about him, the third house. She loves talking to him. She loves hearing the way his brain works. But coming back to this Venus Neptune, this means that he can paint you a really beautiful, pretty picture of how in love he is. But he has a tendency to come in and out of love. Because Venus Neptune people are in love with the idea of love. They're in love with like the version of you that's a fantasy. It squares her Virgo stellium. This means that as she becomes more real, and what I mean by that is like she's not the Barbie anymore. She's Blake Lively, a real life human being, a real life human woman. He may become less infatuated with her. It doesn't necessarily mean he's going to fall completely out of love with her, but the infatuation, the obsession, even with all this Scorpio, the obsession to her, the constant like adoration of her may fade. And honestly, even with this Venus Neptune, you might not be able to pinpoint exactly what's different, but she may feel it. With Saturn on his Neptune, even in Sagittarius, he might just be away from home more often. He might just be traveling more often. He might just not call her as much. And then if she mentions anything, Saturn Neptune, like, oh, I just feel like we don't see each other as often. Even his Saturn Uranus conjunction, her Saturn Uranus conjunction on his IC and Uranus on her IC. I think they have a very transient home life. It's very erratic. I don't think he's always home. I think they have a really weird home life situation. And I think that she feels disconnected from him, but he'll say something like, no, of course not. Like everything's the same. What are you talking about? The positive to this is that his Venus is co-present with her Saturn. He also has her Pluto's on his moon. They'll never leave each other. If they do, it would be like the most raw, heartbreaking thing of all time. Venus Saturn is like, they feel devoted to each other. Like, I have to be with you. I can't leave you. And he's become emotionally invested, like emotionally reliant on her. Even if he falls out of love, I don't think he'd ever leave her because he needs her. She grounds him. She's like his home. She's literally his home. He would have nowhere to go, right? His moon on her IC, very, very loving, very sweet. That's like, fourth house placements, seventh house placements, 12th house placements. These are like the houses. If you want to like know if you're going to be together a long time, if you're going to marry one another, 4th, 7th, 12th. Those are the main ones. Those are the big ones. Oh, the 8th house too plays a big role. 4th, 7th, 8th, and 12th. But especially the angles, the 4th and the 7th houses. Those are the biggest ones for like, we'll get married, we'll have kids together. You're going to become like a cornerstone of my life, right? What else can I tell you? His Jupiter in her 10th house being with him amplifies her image. But it's interesting because her Chiron's also on his midheaven. I keep getting this message that she has an internalized fear that she isn't famous without him. She's not anything without him, right? Like she feels like Chiron in the 11th house, one of her biggest fears is like losing social pull, losing like, this is like she's been the it girl her whole life. Chiron in the 11th house people need a lot of social validation and they fear gossip. They fear people turning on them. They fear people criticizing them. They fear people like exiling them from the group, essentially. And I think that she feels like what's keeping her tied to Hollywood, what's keeping her in the inn is Ryan. It's also interesting that she surrounds herself with other very powerful people, like Taylor Swift. She's drawn to power. Like, she's drawn to Scorpio. So she's drawn to people who wield a lot of power. Ryan has a Mars in Scorpio. Justin has a Mars in Scorpio. Taylor Swift has a Mars in Scorpio. And what do all of these people have? And I think this is one of her biggest insecurities, is that she feels like with Chiron and Gemini, she's not as smart, she's not as talented as they are. And so she surrounds herself by association. She feels like she can remain relevant by association. So this is a really tender part of her that really wants to fit in and really wants to be accepted and really wants to be in the in with the cool kids, with the very powerful, very smart people, right? Okay. His North Node is in her North Node is in his 7th house. They were meant to marry one another. They were meant to be together. Her Jupiter is on his Chiron. She's like his healer. She grounds him. Their connection's very codependent. I don't think we'd ever know that there was trouble in paradise with, like Ryan has an iron fist around their public image. And even this like kind of gnarly stuff here, this Mars Pluto to me is like control, toxicity, and on a positive note, it could be passion and desire. But over time, without a doubt, I've always seen a Mars Pluto conjunction descends into domination and control as a form of attraction that then becomes concerning to others. Like I said, it's like, what do you mean you can't go on Saturday? Oh, but Ryan said I can't. Or like, what do you mean like you can't leave for more than 3 days? Oh, but like Ryan needs me. Like, it's very that, especially with the moon here. Like, Ryan needs me. He needs me. So she's always like available to him. And I think he really needs her in an emotional way. And I think she needs him in like a way where like he provides her with structure and like guidance and leadership. All right, so to finish us off, we're going to get some final insights from the tarot. So let's take a look at Blake's energy towards Ryan. 4 of Wands. Of course, she's in love with him. She's living in her little paradise with him. What about Ryan? How does Ryan feel about Blake? The Wheel of Fortune. Interesting. The Wheel of Fortune, on the one end, I think that he thinks that it's like he won the luck of the draw, or like he won the roll of the dice, essentially. Like he thinks he's won with her. But I also feel like the Wheel of Fortune is very wishy-washy. And this comes back to his Venus-Neptune conjunction. I think he has a tendency to swing between like complete and utter adoration and infatuation, and then he's kind of distant. And then he'll tell you he's not. Like, and then you don't really know where you stand. And that's also his Mars-Uranus conjunction. It makes him really unpredictable. And you don't always know what he really feels, especially with that Mercury-Pluto. It's like he will tell you what you want to hear because it helps him. It makes him get what he wants to just tell you what you want to hear. It's really interesting. So what's between them? The Magician. They're a power couple and they know it. I think even if the relationship ever started to fall apart, I think that they both know that they have lightning in a bottle. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, the it couple. I think it brings them way too many opportunities. I also think Ryan is a little bit opportunistic. I think that he sees Blake as like beyond just being his wife. I think he sees her as a valuable asset, which is such a weird thing to say, but he's a very scorpionic person. Like, he makes calculated decisions. Being with Blake was a choice that was very, very thought through, right? Okay, let's pull from this deck too. See her perspective, her energy towards Ryan. Accelerated motion. Interesting. Come back to that in a second. What about his energy towards her? 6 of Cups. Yeah, they have a lot of history together. Okay, what's between them? 9 of Cups. What did I tell you? They feel like they won the lottery, and like this relationship is in many ways more than just a union of love. This is also like a business venture because they have tied their image to their relationship. So, and they both know that. So they're very both on the same page about that. I think on his end, the Wheel of Fortune and the 6 of Cups, I do believe he thinks that she is his soulmate. And I think that she thinks he is her soulmate. And I think that they could be soulmates. I mean, her whole chart is in his 12th house. His whole chart is in her 4th house. Like, there's a strong bond here. Even her Pluto's on his North Node. It's a fated point. Her North Node's in his 7th house. They're meant to be. But also the 4 of Wands and the 8 of Wands on her end. I think that she really sees him as like her ideal family, like the perfect family. Like, they've built the perfect thing together. And I think that she still gets butterflies around him. I think that she's obsessed with him. She's in love with him. I don't think that there's anything that Ryan could ever do or say that would make her not like him. Like, she's giddy around him. 4 of Wands, 8 of Wands. Like, okay. So that's all I have for you guys on these two. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.